Well, hey leaders, Mike Temple back with you again. And I want to introduce you to a process that I have been using and I've been kind of refining since about 2009 when I became a leadership and strategy advisor. And we are now called executive coaches. But this is a process that you can utilize, and it is scalable. When I first started, most organizations I worked with were, anywhere between $1 to $5 million in revenue. Most of the clients that we work with at Temple Executive Coaching range anywhere between 25, and we've got a few up in the 80 million in revenue range. So this is a process that is scalable. Now, I use this process for a couple of reasons. One, once we do a strategy session, I use this process that I'm going to show you to make sure my clients stay on track. The other reason I use it is that if we come in contact with a new client and they happen to tell us, Mike, our strategy is kind of off the rails, I use this process to ensure that they get back on. And of course, the third one that I use it for is if we take on a client and let's say that we're somewhere midway through the year and they just don't feel comfortable diving into a strategy session, I run them through this process just to kind of get things cleaned up for the year. So depending on where you are, this process will work for you. So as we go through, let me show you. And I got to knock this thing out in about one take because I've got a leadership team that I'm going to take this through here a little bit later. So bear with me, all right? Now, there are 2 points to this process. One is your current state. The other is your desired state. Now, when I say current state, this means where is the organization today, right now, when you start this? A couple of things you might want to measure. One is revenue. When we take on a client, it's more than just revenue we measure. Donna Phoebus, our virtual CFO, she measures, I think, like 5 things in her financial analysis. One of them is liquidity of the organization, your profitability, your sales process, your borrowing capability, and assets on hand. So she dives pretty deep. But for the purpose of this example, we're just going to take a look at revenue. Second one is culture. What's the state of the company culture? Are you seeing the actions and the behaviors that you want within the organization, within your leadership team? And if you want to know more about how I help clients build, to build their culture, click the card somewhere up around here. It'll take you to that video. The other one is leadership team. Do you have the right leadership team in place? Do they reflect the values? Do they show the type of leadership that you want within your organization? So the current state of your leadership team. What about your processes? Are your processes keeping up with the growth of your organization? Let me tell you something. Your organization, its revenue cannot exceed its process. Your process will cripple you. So take a look at your processes. Do you have the right ones in place? Another one you might want to take a look at is market. Where are you in the market of the industry that you're in? What place do you have in the market? Do you even know what your market is? But you got to be open and you got to be honest with yourself. If it's ugly, you got to be honest that it's not very good on some of the things that we're looking at. Don't worry about it, all right? But this has to be open, honest, and it's got to stay fixed, all right? The other point we want to take a look at is your desired state. All right, now that we've taken a look at currently where we're at, we want to look at where do we want to be? Where do we want to be in revenue by a certain time frame? What type of culture do we want? What type of culture do we need to refine? Leadership. Again, looking at if I don't have the leadership and team that I'd like, what type of leaders would I like in the future? Your processes. Which of our processes need to be refined and how do we want them to look? And your market. Take a look at your market. Are you a dominant player in your market? Can you identify opportunities within your market? So these are just some examples of your desired state, where you want to be. Next thing you're going to want to do is place a time frame on this. For the sake of, like I said, I've got a client meeting coming up. So for the sake of this example, we're going to say 90 days. In 90 days, we want to move from our current state to our desired state. And we put some indicators in between, 30, 60, and 90. Now, once you go and you establish this area, what you then take a look at is take out a piece of paper and say, all right, what is everything we need to accomplish to get to our desired state? Write it all out, all right? I've had leadership teams, have lists anywhere between Well, I had one leadership team, list out 27 things that they wanted to accomplish. All right. So then what you do is you take that list and you ask yourself, from this list, come heck or high water, what are 4 or maybe 5 top priorities that we have got to get done? The rest of the list, you just move it off to the side. But these are items that have got to get done, and you've got to narrow it down. I like 4. But you've got to narrow it down. Look, if you have a list that exceeds 5, you go into 7, 10, and so on. Let me tell you something. If everything is important, then nothing is important. But this is going to be a part of our focus. So narrow it down to 4. Now, as you're going through and you're narrowing down these key focus items, goals, right? What you want to be able to do, ask yourself a couple of questions. One big question is, the things that we are focusing on, are they going to move us towards our desired state, or are they not in alliance with our desired state? Another process you might want to utilize, and you've probably heard of SMART goal setting. SMART goal setting, S.M.A.R.T is the acronym, but it means specific. Specific, what is this goal going to, what is the end of this goal? An example. On a specific goal. I've had teams tell me, hey, Mike, we would like to be between 20 and 25 million in revenue by the end of this particular time frame. Well, between is an area. It's not specific. It's a range, all right? So you want something specific. Pick the target. Is it 20, 21, 22, 4, 5? What is it? But be specific as to what that goal is. The next one is measurable. All right. Can the progress of this goal be measured? Can we all recognize it when it's done that it has been accomplished, and can it be measured in the process of doing so? The third, attainable. Is this goal, do we have the right time frame? Do we have the right team? Is it attainable with who we are? Realistic. This is a good one, all right? I know. I've read all of the the Twitter posts and Instagram. Think big, be big, dream huge, these sort of things. Let me give you an example of realistic. I had an organization. They were kind of hitting this ceiling of between 10 to 11 million in revenue, and this had lasted for about 3 years. Finally, the owner of the organization was pretty frustrated and said, "That's it. I've had it. We're pushing through this $10 million barrier, and at the end of this year, we're going to be at 20 million in revenue." I said, "Brother, look, you've been scratching just to hang on to 10 million in revenue. Do you think it's with everything that you have in place, your team, your processes, everything we've talked about here, you're going to be able to get to 20 million in revenue? That is not realistic." Okay? And the last one is timely. You've got to put a time frame to every goal that you have, whether it's in personal or in business. But for the sake of this example, our time frame is 90 days. All right? Now, once we have gone through the setting of our goals and we've agreed as to what the current state is, what you're going to want to do with each of these goals that you've put in place, this is critical, guys. Listen up. All right? You're going to want to assign, A stands for accountability. Who is accountable that this dadgum goal gets accomplished? Now, let me explain a little bit of what accountability means. Accountability, just like it says, you're accountable that this particular goal gets completed. Now, that doesn't mean that you isolate yourself from everyone. You don't take any input on some ways and measures to accomplish that goal. It means that you're accountable that it gets done. That means you're accountable for using all the resources and assets within your organization. And one of those assets should be other people within the organization. Based on their strengths and your weakness, you may need to delegate some tasks to getting some of these things accomplished. Now, that doesn't mean you delegate everything and you're not doing anything. Just simply means you're in charge of delegating certain factors out to individuals, and you're accountable that they get back to you by a specific time frame that they have completed those things, because you have got to get some of these things done on a 30, 60, 90-day frame. That's what accountability is, right? The next thing, what we're going to want to do is that once we have done all of this hard work, you're going to want to make sure that people are staying on track. What you have to do is put in measurements. if this is where we want to be in 90 days, where do we want to be in 30 days? And just backdate it based on where we want to be at 90, where do we need to be in 60 days? Do not wait until 90 days before you check in with your team to see how things are going. If you wait till the end of the goal to check in, you're behind the eight ball. You've lost everything, right? Here's what you're going to need to do. And this is something I have with all of my clients. You need to meet weekly with those individuals who are accountable for these goals here. Yes, you meet weekly to make sure that they are on track. And when you establish accountability for a goal, here's something that is very important. Only one person could be accountable for that goal. You cannot have 2 or 3 people, one person. Because if you've got maybe 2 people accountable for one goal, boom, nobody's accountable. We need one set of eyes that we can go to, and when things are going well, we need to be able to turn to them and saying, hey, look, what are you doing that is working out so well? Is there something that we should have recognized? Have you developed something new? Do you see something, from a perspective that we didn't see before? Conversely, if things are off track, we need to be able to go to that individual and say, look, why are things not working out? Why are we off track? This isn't a freaking blame game, all right? Simply means, what can we do as an organization to help us get back on track and to get recommitted, right? So that's why you need to check in weekly to make sure everything is on track. That's why you need to know that it is measurable, that these individuals are staying on track. Now, the reason you want to keep this momentum up is that you will notice right here, I have these 2 arrows, all right? What this is applying, current state, desired state, specific goals, accountability, they're moving us in the right direction, and that we are checking in weekly. What that is called focus. It is up to you, the leader, to provide focus for the organization in where you're going. It is up to you, the leader, to make sure that everyone is crystal clear as to what they are accountable for, and you need to be crystal clear as to what that outcome must be. If you don't provide focus and a destination to where the organization is going, a couple things. One, you're going to have people wandering all over in the organization trying to find their own goals. And if you let people just kind of wander around, oh my gosh, you don't know where you're going to be. Okay, you need to give everyone a focus point as to where the organization is going. All ideas that you get from employees and that you constantly are talking about are funneled through the desired state. Will these ideas get us closer or further away? When we set these 5 goals, 4 or 5 goals in place, remember I mentioned you had like 27, or you could have whatever amount. You simply take those goals, move them off to the side. At the end of this time frame, you go back and you take a look and say, hey, do we need to add these, or did some of these get, did we realize that maybe they were not as important? As you're going through and you're accomplishing these goals, this is what you need to do. Once you've accomplished a goal, take it down. Do not add another goal on top of it. As you have accomplished these goals, you take each of them off. The reason you need to take them off and you do not add another goal on top is that you have to be able to celebrate your success. Let the team build confidence that, hey, we set these goals by this time frame, we work through it and we accomplish them. That starts to build momentum, that starts to build confidence, and and a lot of teamwork within the organization. Okay, I'm coming. All right. Hey guys, I'd like to hear from you. Does this sound like something that you could do? Did you take anything away from this? At least let me know 3, maybe 4 things you'd like to get accomplished over the next 90 days. I'm Mike Temple, Leadership and Strategy Advisor with Temple Executive Coaching. And as always, so grateful you tuned in.
You've been listening to the Temple Executive Coaching Podcast, where we engage with experts in business growth for small and medium-sized companies. If you're an expert and would like to be featured on the Temple Executive Coaching Podcast, please email Mike Temple at mike@templeexecutivecoaching.com.